Be Heard is a podcast-inspired program designed to elevate teen voices. The library, with help from our partner Tanager Place, is engaging with teens to hear what individuals have to say about books and personal experiences through reading. Since we're working with youth in a sensitive setting, all identifiers have been removed to protect the participants. This production was made possible through a partnership with Tanager Place. This episode was recorded on June 29th, 2021. In addition to residents at Tanager Place, participants are Kate and Meredith with the Cedar Rapids Public Library and Tanager Place staff.
Today is June 29th.
Heart-racing and emotional. Internment challenges readers to fight the complicit silence that exists in our society today.
Do you feel like there are other places in our society, which is really big, right? But even like here in Cedar Rapids, like other places that could be applicable?
Like even at school, it's kind of like that too. Like there's like the cliques and like there's like groups of people and like you're always leaving some group out.
Kind of unspoken how those groups get formed too.
Yeah.
Like how do you know what the rules are? Why are there rules?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I'm so glad you shared that. So you had heard of this book before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody else heard of this book before?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has. After hearing that description, would anybody be willing to pick it up at this point? Does it sound interesting? We're all shaking our head. Yes. Maybe. That's amazing. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Does anybody have anything else that they noticed or wanted to comment on in that book, Internment by Samira Ahmed? Anybody else have a book in front of them they want to talk about? Anyone? All right. So I'm going to pick up a book. This one's called Amina's Voice. Right? Has anybody heard of this one? Mm-hmm. One. You heard of it? Did you hear anything good about it? Bad?
My friend's cousin actually, and she didn't actually read it.
Okay, that's a real reader recommendation right there, right? If a friend tells you it's good, even if it's your cousin's friend, right, it should be good. So, I don't know. I think it's just beautiful, first of all, right?
She looks really sweet.
She does. But what makes you think that? Like, can you describe, since
like,
we're on audio here?
Her smile is like really soft, and her eyes just look so relaxed, and her hair is just flowing in the wind, and her hands are held towards her chest, which means she likes like peaceful.
It's like from this picture, you wouldn't imagine that anything is wrong.
Yeah.
Picture, right? Would anyone be willing to read a little bit of the back out loud?
So this book says, Amina has never been comfortable in the spotlight. She is happy just hanging out with her best friend, Sujin. Except now that she's in middle school, everything feels different. Sujin is suddenly hanging out with Emily, one of the cool girls in the class, and even talking about changing her name to something more American. Does Amina need to start changing too, or hiding who she is to fit in? While Amina grapples with these questions, her local mosque is vandalized, and she is devastated. In Amina's Voice, readers will witness the power of a young girl using her voice to bring people together.
That sounds really good.
It does, doesn't it? Like, yeah. I just got goosebumps a little bit. Okay, so I just said I thought it sounded good. I want to see a show of hands who would read it after that description. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a quorum. Everybody would. I think, yeah.
So when I first looked at the book, I was like, it kind of looks like a little kid book. I don't know if I want to read it or not, but now I kind of want to read it because like I took a chance and like read like saw what's in the inside. So don't judge it by its cover.
Right. Well, something that I think is interesting too is that the cover is beautiful. Like if you judge it, like it looks like just peaceful.
Yeah, it's really almost too calm to read.
Yeah, but then when you open it up, like kind of like we were just talking about with internment. Like when you're talking about school, first of all, school is stressful. I think what I remember of being in middle school and high school is that it's hard to find your place and find your people and dealing with cliques and things like that. And so, like, it sounds like
one, do you think it would be super easy to be part of an immigrant family that moves to a new country and has to figure out how to do high school? Does that sound fun? Everyone's just shaking their head no. So then, on top of that, when you find somebody who has some similarities maybe and they start to change, how would that make you feel? I don't know. What do you think?
Unwanted.
Mic drop. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say basically that would make me feel like I would also have to change myself just to fit in with everyone else and to be liked.
To feel like you have to change yourself to fit in to be liked. That's like the opposite of humanity, I feel like. Right? I feel like we all just need to be ourselves.
It's interesting because you guys know there's like this big diversity thing going on where it's like everyone should be themselves and like be happy with who they are and their religion and stuff like that. And then you have stories like these and it's like, well, that's not exactly what's gonna happen in real life. So I feel like that feels very realistic.
Yeah, just because we're trying to be better overall in our culture doesn't mean that it plays out that way, right? It's true. So another example of don't judge a book by its cover is she looks peaceful and calm and like she's in the best place, but she had to go through a lot of turmoil probably to get to that place. You know, do you think that's the beginning of the book or the end of the book, the cover?
The end.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the end as well. So,
Or the beginning, because I know it talks about how she was like, happy before going to middle school, and then all the changing started happening with her friends. So could be in the beginning too.
it sounds like we're gonna have to read the book and find out. What did you think? Tell us, or you can either tell us what you think, or you can tell us a little bit about the story first. Whatever.
I personally liked it because it helps with like racial things. Like the kid Jaden in the book, he goes to this big school. It's like he meets all different people and he becomes with this friends with this one kid Drew, and they don't really talk as much in the beginning of the book. And there's this other kid that people make fun of because he's black. But there's this one kid, I don't remember the name, but he's the first friend he ever Jaden ever makes. So, and he's white, and it's like an interracial thing. And I just think it's a really good book, and I totally recommend it because it's like it teaches you about how not to judge people by how they look and how they act on the inside. Because the one kid that the kids were making fun of in the book, he's like an Oreo, they say.
Well, I mean, that's important.
I've been called that before.
It's like where you're black on the outside but you're white in the inside, and it's just, it's not a good word to use, and it's really mean. But Jaden and his two other friends help the one kid that's been being bullied throughout the whole book, and they help that one kid, and Drew has problems with the teacher. She keeps doing something, and like every time in each chapter of the book to Drew, that's racist and stuff, and she purposely gets his name wrong, And yeah, and then like he gets called these other names, which I don't remember because I don't know how to pronounce them because they're weird names. But yeah, that's basically it.
Well, it sounds like it's really empowering too, because the relationship that these kids had, they kind of allied against a racist teacher too. Is that sound accurate?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's, I mean, I think that's really powerful because obviously grown-ups don't always do the right thing,
No.
whether they are doing it on purpose or not on purpose. And so I think that's really not only empowering, but hugely optimistic that I think kids can make a really big difference in their lives even when like grown-ups are against them.
Yeah, like we were made, like we were born equal, but we're not treated equally. So it's just when people are taking racial slurs and racist words and pointing them towards a different race that they're meaning to hurt them, it isn't right. And when your parents do it to your friends, and figures that you care about in your life do it to your friends that are Black. But one of my other friends has something to say, so I'll let them
Well,
go.
you can finish.
No, it's okay. I think it's important what they.
Well, I was gonna ask after the book discussion, like, would you be comfortable talking about what it made you feel like when someone called you an Oreo? Yeah. Explain that.
So I'm Black, but I was raised in a white family, so I act white with quotations around that. So I don't act like the typical Black person, you might say. So that's people call me Oreo. It really makes me feel like I'm not Black, but like my skin is just as Black as other people. It's just I don't act it.
Well, I think that's interesting too, because like, who gets to define what acting Black or acting white even is?
Yeah.
Like, you is you.
Yeah.
And when other people feel like they have the right to define our identity,
It isn't right. It definitely isn't right.
and I think it doesn't just have to do with like what color your skin is, right?
Yeah.
But like how your gender pronouns work out, how you identify. There are all sorts of things that you can't see that have to do with your identity, right?
Yeah.
So people make a lot of assumptions or feel like they can tell you what one thing is supposed to be or the other.
Like, can I tell a story about when I was coming out as non-binary and pan? My mother said that I should have asked her permission to be that, and that I shouldn't have changed my pronouns or my name. And to this very day, she still calls me a girl and her pronouns, and doesn't she still calls me by my dead name. And I just, it's not right to, you can't ask someone to change them for who they are, and it's just not right.
Well, I'm so grateful that you felt like you could share that story. I feel like it's a really brave thing.
So where we are right now, we have to ask to clear. And so I made this weird joke saying, "Can I queer?" Because my mom always told me that I had to ask permission to be queer. And so I made the joke, "Can I queer?" And like, it's just, it helps a lot. So I don't care on what other people think of what I am.
So one of the books that you guys brought in last week, I finished it. It's Punching the Air. It was super good. It was basically about this kid who is Black. And he got in a fight with these white kids on the rich side of town, but basically he was defending himself because they were coming after him. But one of the kids got super hurt. So they convicted him and charged him with aggravated assault, without even waiting for the other kid to wake up to take his word. So he got wrongly imprisonated, or because basically it's just because they're racist. They're just racist. They're just like, oh, so it's a black kid being a white kid. We gotta not like take into account the black kid's point of view. We just like, oh, he beat this kid up, so we gotta arrest him.
Assumptions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So he was like throughout the book, he was in the Juvenile Detention Center, and he's like an artist too, so he writes like poems and he paints and all that. And when there's this guy there that like volunteered there like once to like have a talk about like him and like everything, and he was also wrongly imprisoned, and so he talked about his experience with that. And then there was this teacher lady who did like a poetry class, so he really liked that class. He loved writing about himself, and even if he didn't have a pen or a paper around, he would still like write in his mind just all of the experiences that he was having. And the end of the book, they were talking about how, so it was a poetry book, so it's over kind of quick, but they were talking about how the kid that was hurt really bad was going to wake up and they were going to take his thing, and that's like how it ended. And I was like, what?
And, like,
I need to know. Yeah.
Or-
Yeah. And I was like, I need to know what happens. Like, I need to know if he gets out, because I hope
Just
so.
asking for a sequel, right?
Yes, I need.
Please, we need
I
a
know.
sequel for our friend.
But also, there was two authors for the book, and one of the author was a doctor. I think his name is Yusuf. And he was also wrongly accused of a crime he didn't like commit, and so he was wrongly convicted too. So it was also like kind of
Semi-autobiographical.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool that he kind of wrote something that was what's the word, similar to him and his experiences. So that was kind of cool.
So based on this review, how many stars would you give it out of like 5?
I would give 5.
Nice.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Did you read it?
No,
No. Oh,
they had the book.
oh, so you didn't read it.
I might have to steal it.
Okay.
It's written in verse. Is that right? It's written in poetry.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting because it sounds like poetry is what this person used to express themselves, both on paper and in their mind and all the time. And it's also the vehicle that we use to read about this experience.
Yes.
That's a lot, right?
Do you think it would have changed the book if they hadn't written it in poetry?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Or would you
Yeah.
have preferred it in prose, or do you think poetry was the best way?
I think poetry was the best way. Honestly, I love poetry. Like verse novels, like the best. I just love verse novels. So I guess that's what really made me love it. I don't know. But I feel like I would have loved it either way, but
Love it. I have a question. Do you feel like in your own experience have different methods of artistic expression helped you? So whether it's an art or writing or music or singing, like especially in the like kind of crazy last year that we've come off of, is there anything that you individually use to kind of help you process things or take your mind off of things, either way?
Yes, at the beginning of this, like not like last year, like at the beginning of the last school year, I was writing poems because I was in like a similar place to this, and that like really helped me. I also like to draw and sing, so like I really love art, and I'm like a really creative person.
So going off of what she said, um art is basically a way to express yourself. So if you take like singing and how you're feeling in that moment, it can make something beautiful. Or if you take your feelings and put them into anything creative, beautiful. So it's like,
Reference and right, Amina's voice. You missed that one. I don't know what
yeah,
that
I
was.
did. But it sounds like a good book, and I might have to steal it from the person who's reading it. Because I like to read, and reading's actually an art to me, because like you don't get to see many people read, or not many people have books. Like there's people out there who have never read a book or ever read anything before, and having those simple opportunities can change a person's life. And I just think it is really important to me that if someone hasn't got the opportunity to read out there, um if you can, or if you want to, I'm not going to force you to do anything, but I would recommend some of the books on this podcast, because they're really empowering books, and they're really good books too. There's all sorts of they're just really good books in my opinion.
Like a book's a book, but it's not the same book to each person.
Yeah, it's so different to each and every other person.
I read Long Way Down, and I would rate it like a 5-star. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. It was very plot twisting. There was a lot of things I didn't expect to happen in there, but at the end, it was a really good book, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I'm gonna ask you one question though. Do you feel like you can come up with any number of feelings that you got when you read this book? Beginning, middle, or end?
Probably close to 100, maybe, because every time I was reading it, I felt something every time, and I was like, wait, what? And sometimes I'd have to go back and reread it to just like understand what I was feeling and reading, because there were so many emotions and feelings. It was really great.
That sounds like a really, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Dynamic and really full book. Did it take a long time to read?
It took like 2 days.
You screamed through it, is what happened. Amazing. That is a terrific review. Thank you.
It's about this kid coming from Honduras, looking for his mom, who immigrated to the U.S. illegally, and he's gonna make the journey by himself, crossing different countries and going through struggle in one of the countries, and be by himself, be a minor, and knowing anything about how crossing the border between Mexico and the U.S. So it's a really good book. Talk about a lot of things the kids from Central America are going through, and the reason why people are leaving their home country and family and looking for a better options for their life in the U.S. That's what the book is about.
I can't wait.
It sounds like a really good book to me.
So I would rate this book from 5 stars, 6 stars.
Whoa!
Oh.